Welcome, guys, to Three Bold Takes. We are continuing our predictions for week five. But before we get into that, we all know those moments where you're hanging around the city where the big game's taking place and you think, I'm gonna walk down to the stadium, see if I can get a ticket. You run into that scalper who's selling them for like 300, 400 bucks, way overpriced. You know it. You get it anyway, so you can get in. You know how you avoid that situation? Use our code Three Bold Takes on SeatGeek. Get $20 off your first purchase. Not only are you getting that $20 off on your first purchase for the ticket to the big game, but you also get access to seeing how good of a deal each particular seat in the stadium is. And not only do you know if it's a good deal, you also get to see the view you're going to have from the seat you're in. So remember, use Three Bold Takes at SeatGeek. I love using them for that very reason. Lets me know I'm making a good decision with my ticket purchase. Three Bold Takes at SeatGeek, $20 off your first purchase. Now let's get into the big one here. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, number 4 Crimson Tide, number 2 Georgia Bulldogs. Guys, fun fact about Georgia, only twice have they ever won against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Only twice in the history of the team. Last time they did it, 2007, Nick Saban's first year as the head coach. Now, these teams too don't meet very much. When they do, huge collision right beside each other, but no real rivalry between the two, at least nothing official. What are you thinking? I mean, this is Kirby finally going to take over permanently? Does Alabama get him again? What are you guys thinking? Was it a Saban problem or is it an Alabama problem? That's the real question going into this weekend.
So I just want to start off here with this one. And Georgia hasn't lost a regular season game since COVID. Let's just take a second to think about that. Think about how long ago COVID actually was in 2020, like that season. Now,
So
for
what
you,
it was the Florida? Was it the Florida game in 2020?
no, it was Alabama beat them in
Oh, okay.
2020 in Tuscaloosa. Now that we've had that thought and that moment of silence for the rest of college football in the regular season for Georgia, who's the team that's beat Georgia over the past couple of years? It's Alabama. Now, like you said, the question is it Nick Saban or is it the University of Alabama? Well, I asked my father this because I didn't know, obviously. I'm only 25, so I can only think back so far, whereas he is in his 60s. He thinks back even further. And he made mention that it seems like it's always been the case between Georgia and Alabama that Georgia just seems they cannot get over the hump consistently. Now, they can win every now and then and pull off some upsets, but consistently they can't do it. Now, when you look at this one, there's a lot of headlines coming into this game, right? You've got Georgia, obviously, and Alabama. Georgia, Kirby Smart, dominant football program over the past couple of years. Alabama, dominant program over the past X amount of years, 15 years, whatever you want to call it. However, Nick Saban's gone. This is Kalen DeBoer's team now, and this is also his first SEC game. What a way to welcome you to the SEC, Kalen. The biggest thing in this game to me, it's going to come down to the trenches in Georgia's defensive and offensive line and Alabama's defensive and offensive line. When you look at that in the SEC championship game last season, the reason why Alabama won that game is because they controlled the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And that is what it takes to beat Georgia. Now, when you look at the Kentucky game that Georgia had 2 weeks ago, you saw Kentucky control that line of scrimmage in a way that nobody really does unless it's an Alabama and Ohio State, somebody like that matches up physically to them. That's going to be the biggest point in this game. I'm not worried about Jalen Milroe. I'm not worried about, Ryan Williams and the receivers. I'm not worried about our defensive backs. I say our because I am an Alabama fan. So call me a hater and a homer if you want. I think Alabama wins this game, but let me tell you, I am nowhere near confident in saying that. This is my one homer pick, to be honest. I don't do a lot of homer picks besides Alabama and Penn State, just to get under Chase's skin about the Penn State. I think Alabama controls the lines of scrimmage in this game, and I think they push Georgia around. I think it's going to be a very tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like every other meeting between Alabama and Georgia. Georgia's winning at halftime, and somehow they slip it away because they start playing conservative. That's not what you want to do if you're a Georgia team. So give me Alabama to win a tough matchup. Over under is 49.5. I kind of like the over in that, but I think that's a very good number as well.
Yeah, easily. I'm hammering the over on that. But I think the cool thing about this, both these teams are coming off a bye week, which is huge. And we got on this a couple weeks ago. We didn't talk about the Kentucky game because it was Georgia Kentucky, but we talked about Alabama Wisconsin. I said, hey, Alabama and DeBoer, both of them alike, could be looking ahead to this game because it's such a big game. Not only just for Alabama to continue this narrative of who's daddy, but also for DeBoer. This is your first SEC game, and this is also your first big game as an Alabama head coach. Wisconsin, yes, I claim that to be a big game because it's a notable Power Four team in the first season in DeBoer's tenure. But this is the game. This is every game after this matters maybe half as much as this game right here. And I kind of predicted with DeBoer that if he doesn't win SEC and national championships within his first 3 years, this Alabama fan base is ready to tear his head off. And this is where it starts. If you're not beating Georgia, continuing this narrative and bossing around Kirby Smart after Saban retires as an Alabama head coach, you will get lit up very quickly by this Alabama fan base. So this is a huge game for DeBoer. Under the lights, it's 6:30. You're going to have those red lights flowing in Tuscaloosa. But this is a big game for Milroe as well, too. You've grown a little bit from this game last year. He was good, but you can be even better now. Carson Beck, for me, is the quarterback in the country. He is the guy I am focused on. He's good in the pocket. He's understanding. He knows his offense. And even I thought he was going to drop off a little bit without Brock Bowers. He has still been fantastic in putting balls in places that he needs to. He struggled a little bit in that Kentucky game. But again, I think Georgia got caught looking towards the Alabama game more than Alabama got caught looking to this game. But there's always fun in games with this one, and I'll tell you, the Bulldog Report on Twitter. I bet you both of you guys saw it. They came out. They said Georgia's overall record versus Alabama: 26, 43, and 4. However, without Nick Saban or Bear Bryant on Alabama's sideline, Georgia is 21, 26, and 4. Alabama isn't quite as menacing without a Hall of Fame coach on the sideline, is what they said. And I read all of that, and I kind of put it out there for you. You go from 26 and 43 to 21 and 26, and you do lose a lot less. But in my ears, it's ringing, and it's ringing loud that you still have a losing record against Alabama. And for me, I'm going with the Crimson Tide of this game. I think they come through. I think this is DeBoer's opening game. I'm going to go a close one. It's going to be all the way to the end. You saw the game from last year in the SEC Championship, a 3-point victory. I'm going to go with a 7-point win for Alabama.
You're muted, Quinn.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna start with this. That's a sad tweet.
It was
to say like, hey, we're 21 and 26 when you take out 30 plus years of the best 30 plus years of a program's existence, we're still losing to them. That is not a good tweet. You should have never tweeted that. That does not matter though for what we're about to talk about. Now let's talk Alabama, Georgia. Not long ago, someone at work was asking me about like what I thought was some of the best football games I've watched growing up. And my answer was like the 2008-ish to 2015-ish run of the Alabama LSU game. And a big reason that game was like the best game every year for almost a decade was because both teams were loaded with NFL talent, just like this current Alabama and Georgia team are. Both teams played in the same conference, so conference records were on the line with the result of the game. And both teams had a bye week to prepare for each other. So they knew each other in and out. And all that the players had thought about for 2 weeks was winning that game. Now, there's an added part of the whole SEC West and rivalry stuff and Nick Saban that went into Alabama LSU. But the most important part of that is you have two loaded NFL future talent rosters who are preparing each other for 2 weeks. This game is going to be some of the best. This is going to be, as far as the football product you see on the field, the best football game we've seen so far in 2024 from both teams.
Mm-hmm.
It might look sloppy. That's not sloppy. That's insane preparation and practice of what you like or execution of what you practice and prepared for. That's what we're going to get. It's going to be a phenomenal game. That being said, I like Georgia to win the game. I do. I know you can see all the Alabama stuff around me. You might have been expecting the Homer sweep here. Look, I can't deny what I've seen Georgia do, and I don't take much stock from Georgia went to Kentucky and struggled. Newsflash, they've done it the last like 3 times they've went
That's
to
true.
Lexington. It's a normal thing. Stoops has a long history, was smart. He knows what he's going to try to do, play in, play it out. It's like he's in his brain, honestly. Like the way that Kentucky plays Georgia, especially at home. At this point, I just think Stoops understands exactly how Georgia wants to execute throughout the game. And if he had a better roster, he'd beat them regularly. Like he just kind of has him figured out in a way that the only reason he can't get over the hump is purely talent based, which is a big part of the game.
Yeah.
But I think DeBoer's good. I think Alabama can pressure them. My concern is I've seen Georgia already with their back on the wall, and now they've got to answer for it. You could say that happened to Alabama with USF, but they kind of avoided it because they hung like 4 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes of the game, and the scoreline ended up being 42-16 instead of 21-16.
Mm-hmm.
If that game's 21-16, I don't know if people are as positive about Alabama as they currently are. Yeah. We would be able to look back on that, but everyone's already kind of forgot about it because then they turned around and blew out Wisconsin, and that looked impressive. But how good is Wisconsin really? I think Georgia has played an overall better like slate of opponents up to this point than what Alabama has seen. Now, I think that Tuscaloosa is going to be loud and crazy, and it's going to play to their advantage. But I don't think it's enough to get past the Bulldogs. They're not a team that just historically struggles super, super hard on the road under Kirby Smart. They're not a team that like folds on the road and becomes a different program. So I like the Bulldogs to get it done.
And let me add this. We did schedule predictions back in the summer, and I predicted that Georgia could lose 3 games this season. And they don't need to lose this one here because after this one, they have 2 bye weeks in Auburn and Mississippi State. Let's just go ahead and throw that one out there. But then they get, at this current moment, number 1 Texas. They play Florida, of course, in their neutral battle, and then they get Ole Miss and Tennessee as well. This is not an easy slate for Georgia this year. And if you are a Georgia fan, you need to be siding with Quinn here and writing out that they can beat Alabama.
Wait a minute. Wait. Did you just say Mississippi State and Auburn are bye weeks, but Florida isn't?
I just said their neutral battle. Thank you.
I'm just saying.
Hey, Graham Mertz and that team looked amazing the other day.
Against Mississippi State.
Like, that's why I call Mississippi State the bye week, not Florida yet.
Well, Florida's the next one up.
But it's the gauntlet of 3 top 6 teams in a 4 or 5 week span. This Georgia schedule is not pretty for them at all. And then you get a scrappy Georgia Tech game at the end of the year, which probably won't be fun to play either before an SEC championship game potential. So that's all I got to say. But Georgia's got a schedule out in front of them, and this is a big game for them to win off the bat.
Well, so that's all we got. Y'all both riding Alabama. I'm riding Georgia.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Now keep in mind, we are sponsored. SeatGeek. Use code 3BoldTakes, $20 off first purchase. Helps you get the best deals on all seats. And it's not just football games. It is anything. Concert, sporting event, you name it, they got tickets for it. I've been Quinn, been joined by Freddie, Chase. We've been 3 Bold Takes, and we're out of here.